The Seedmaster drill is manufactured by StrawTrack Manufacturing Incorporated. The factory is just east of Regina on the Trans-Canada Highway. At StrawTrack, we pride ourselves on producing top-quality, adaptable zero-till drills. We manufacture many flexible systems, seeding tools without on-frame tanks that seamlessly adapt to all of the product carts on the market. We offer the largest selection of on-frame product tanks on the market, making it simple to custom fit your new drill to your farming operation. A Seedmaster drill can come equipped with a variety of on-frame anhydrous tank configurations. On-frame granular fertilizer and seed tanks of up to a 600 bushel capacity are available, or just on-frame seed-only tanks are available to a 400 bushel capacity. Plus, you can get on-frame seed and liquid fertilizer tanks up to 300 bushel seed and 2,100 gallon liquid fertilizer capacity. And on-frame big capacity liquid fertilizer tanks up to 3,500 gallons are available. The Seedmaster comes in widths ranging from 20 feet to 64 feet, with 12-inch or 10-inch row spacing options. For those machines that have seed and/or granular fertilizer distribution on frame, the products are metered using Valmar distribution. Valmar metering systems are incredibly accurate and infinitely adjustable, and very gentle for all crop types, large and small. The product monitoring system we use is called the DM AgCam, an extraordinarily versatile infrared and waterproof camera system with a crystal clear cab-mounted monitor. The Smart Mark option for Seedmaster drills is a simple, lightweight marker that works off an active hydraulic system. All Seedmaster drills are designed to easily seed into standing stubble. The patented residue deflector improves field conditions dramatically. Each seeder comes ready to be equipped with the optional Smart Hitch, a part of the drill hitch. The Smart Hitch adjusts the hitch so the openers plant the seed between last year's rows of stubble. The Smart Hitch is a valuable tool for producing higher yields, increasing profits by at least 10%, conserving moisture throughout the year, producing a more uniform crop, and speeding up seeding and harvesting operations. StrawTrack Manufacturing is owned and operated by Norbert Beaujeau and his family. This 40-foot Seedmaster on 12-inch row spacings is seeding on the Norbert Beaujeau family farm in the Langbank, Saskatchewan district. In 1990, Norbert started designing and doing extensive field research on hydraulically controlled direct seeding air drills. In 1992, he filed for patents, and later that year, he built the first drill based on those patents. Although many small changes have been made over the years, the patent concept is the same today as it was in 1992. In 2002, with the experience of over 500 drills and the feedback from over 5 million acres under his belt, Norbert did a major design update. He went through every component of the frame and opener to deal with any shortcomings that he'd found in previous years.
So in 2002, I decided to go right through the drill, the opener in small detail, and look at the design again and improve little things, big things, whatever I could in taking all the history into consideration. And some of these things are fairly small, and I won't touch on them too much, but we increased the U-bolt size because on occasion a U-bolt would break. With the older design had a 11/16 U-bolt, and we went to 3/4. One of the bigger changes that I made after that 2002 period was to go to a clamp device on this main pivot. The main pivot has to be free moving up and down, but it has to have good lateral stability so that when you're going around curves and things like that, that it holds it in track, but it allows it to move up and down to follow the terrain. So I went to a single arm. One of the problems that we had on the older device was we had two arms very close together, and those two arms in a curve would give a high push-pull effect on the bushings, and we were having long-term problems on the bushings. With this clamp mechanism, the forces on the bushings are directly in line, and the bushings will be a very long-lasting part of the machine. So having decided to go to the single arm, I wanted to make sure that we had the strength requirements. So I took one of these openers basically in its final design, and an opener of the older design, and I put them side by side and hooked a hydraulic cylinder on the bottom portion and pulled one against the other to compare the strength, because it's the ground forces when you're turning that are trying to destroy this. So I was able to make sure that the new design was as strong as the old one, and had the added benefits of keeping bushings intact for a long, long time. We have identical bushing situations on 4 locations, and there's one on the main pivot, there's one on each end of the hydraulic cylinder, and there's one on the trip mechanism of the fertilizer knife. So at all 4 of those locations, the wear has to take place between a connex bushing and a pin. So at no place in the wearing parts of this device is there ever wear on the expensive portions. So over a long, long period of time, it's very economical parts to replace to bring it back to a completely fresh unit. The pivot on the fertilizer knife is very similar to the one at the top. It has the feature of having a layer of UHMW on either side to give it its lateral stability, and it also provides for a very easy movement in the forward and back direction. So all the forces, we want all the forces on the fertilizer knife to be only those provided by the hydraulic cylinder. At the back of the same fertilizer knife portion of the device, there's a distance limiting slot within the shank portion of it. We used to have, on the older device, we had a tether chain that prevented its forward movement beyond the position that it's in the field operating position. The tether chain would wear eventually and stretch and also contribute to material plugging in this region. So it was important to remove the plugging portion in particular. So instead of the tether chain, the new design incorporated this slot for the forward and backward limit to the travel of the fertilizer knife.
In 2002, Norbert made some long-needed changes to the seed and fertilizer knives. Rubber drop tubes were always a source of headache and maintenance. Carbide designs needed attention, and maintenance costs needed to be lowered.
I decided to go to a more aggressive penetrating angle, so now when we go into harder soil, it neutralizes the forces and maintains the packing force without having to dial the trip force up higher. So we maintain a flatter drill frame, and we can penetrate very hard soil. This knife, as I mentioned before, is a 1/2 inch wide, and we've redesigned the carbide so that it tapers from quite thick at the cutting edge to thinner at the upper edge. So it's a better bang for your buck, I guess, in your cost of the carbide, because when the knife wears out, you're throwing a lot of good carbide away, and this way it'll last longer because of the thickness at the bottom. So the seed knife carbide, as we've mentioned before, is angled to push the soil and over the fertilizer furrow. As a result, it's also thicker on its cutting side, so it'll last for many, many years, tens of thousands of acres. On the width of the seed knife, I've increased it from a 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch. Basically, on the older design, we had drop tubes that would wear out, and they had to be maintained all the time to keep them functioning properly. With this design, there's no maintenance on the knives at all. They'll last for the fertilizer knife will last for 12 to 16,000 acres, and the seed knife on some of the drills will outlast the farmers. But to achieve that, we went to an 1/8 of an inch wider material here so that the tube behind wouldn't wear out. and we went to a fixed welded-on drop tube that removes the maintenance requirement. On all the drills that we build, these knives are exactly the way you see them here. The seed tube is big enough for any kind of seed variety, to big chickpeas or whatever you want to put down. There's no restriction at the where the tube connects on to the steel portion, because the steel portion is flared so that the rubber tube goes inside, or the plastic tube. On the fertilizer knife, we've made provision for any type of fertilizer or fertilizer combination. We can put NH3 fertilizer or liquid fertilizer in the first tube, and we can of course put granular fertilizer in the second tube. So you can use any combination of liquid and anhydrous and granular fertilizer. The design on the bottom of the knives has a feature that has shields on the side and a height and slope on the cut at the back, so it's a very low incidence of plugging of either seed or fertilizer.
The Seedmaster drill is known for unsurpassed product placement, safely placing the seed and fertilizer in optimum locations for quick and uniform emergence.
So when you have this packer wheel following the ground and you've set this seed knife a certain distance below the packer wheel, it can't help but drop the seed exactly the depth that you've set it for. Whether the opener is behind a wheel track or going down into a washout or going over a large molehill, it'll adjust the seed depth on this one opener for exactly what's happening to it. The same holds true with the fertilizer location. We have the fertilizer knife is factory set at a depth 3/4 of an inch lower than the seed knife. So again, once the packer wheel is following the terrain, it pulls the seed and fertilizer knives up and down with it and follows the terrain accordingly. The fertilizer knife, if you look at it from the back, is set 1.5 inches to the side of the seed knife. So it digs the primary furrow, and depending on the packer wheel location, it determines the depth of that first furrow, drops the fertilizer into that furrow, and then along comes the seed knife 1.5 inches to the side and 3/4 of an inch higher than the fertilizer. And before dropping the seed, it has an angled carbide so that it pushes soil to make sure that the fertilizer furrow is closed before it drops the seed. So then it drops the seed at that depth that's been set, and the packer wheel follows and seals the complete disturbed area of where the soil's been disturbed by the two knives. Part of the importance of the lateral separation is to maintain safety for the seed, to ensure that we don't have fertilizer burn. But the other important feature is making sure that the seed is always on a firm seed bed. With that 1.5 inch lateral separation and a 3/4 inch vertical separation, in all soil types we end up with setting the seed on a very firm bed, which is important for fast uniform emergence. So this general design concept's been used on over 500 drills to date, and so we know very well where the wear points are and where the weaknesses are and strengths are. The hydraulic cylinder, as it's designed now, will last for many, many years. It's going to definitely be lower maintenance than any other trip mechanism on the market. The hydraulic trip mechanism gives it very good protection in rocky land. Instead of ripping rocks out and causing damage to the device, it trips easily over rocks. The hydraulic trip provides a slower trip so that it's not snapping back into place after the knife is returning. It's quite often the damage from a second rock on other spring type devices that causes the high damage. But the low trip force that we need with a narrow 1/2 inch knife like that it can trip out at 200 pounds typically, and of course 200 pounds isn't pulling a very big rock out.
Farmers felt that the maintenance costs and maintenance headaches of the older design needed attention. Now, knives, packer wheels, and bushings at pivot points are longer lasting and have no maintenance requirements.
Where the older design, we were replacing a complete long shank along with the replacement knife, the redesign allows for just a replacement of the bottom portion, so it's quite a lot cheaper in the long term to replace the knives, and besides that there's the benefit of them lasting longer as well. Over the years, one of the main complaints about this design is that you have two knives disturbing the residue, and when the residue is sticky, it can cause it to drop off of the opener in clumps and leave the field less attractive looking. It's always been known for seeding a very precise crop, but the look of the field and sometimes the roughness due to dragging of material has been made some farmers hesitant about buying it originally. So I focused a lot on what was happening with the residue right here, and we came up with this design and have tested it for 2 years now, and it's proven very helpful in heavy residue or stickier residue situations. What happens is the knife is going through the soil, and the residue is being gathered here if there's long residue or lodged residue from the year before. It works its way up the knife because of the normal action of the soil rotating at this point. It's pushing the residue up. Once it gets onto this deflector shield, the deflector shield is offset to one side. So first of all, that residue is off balance, so it tends to roll off a lot quicker. Besides that, as it moves up here, it's so round and smooth that it's difficult for the residue to build up there, because any little jar on it will roll it off. So instead of building up into a big clump, it's continually rolling off. And we've winged it off to the one side so that any material that's rolling off in this direction will tend to miss the seed knife.
Without the residue deflector, seeding into a wide variety of crop conditions will result in trash building up on the front knife or between the two knives. The deflector helps both knives to run cleaner. The Seedmaster has the fastest and most rugged depth-setting system for seeders of its type on the market. It's fast, simple, strong, and foolproof.
We preset the depth so that the seed ends up being 3/4 of an inch below the packed surface. With this furrow effect, the packed surface ends up being an inch to an inch and a half below the original ground level. As a result, the seed is shallow, but it's deep in the ground in a nice moist location. Many farmers never change the depth. We do provide for a simple and positive method of changing the depth. This simple tool comes with the drill, and to change the depth, you simply unlock the previous location, adjust it to the new desired notch, and relock it. This provides for a method that's very positive. There's no slop in it after it's adjusted, and instead of removing and reinstalling and realigning pins, this ends up being much faster and nothing to wear out.
This depth setting is the fastest on the market. Here's why.
So this inward shaped notch, when it's lined up with the bottom of this arm, that's where we factory set it, and that's the 3/4 inch depth. Each notch from there is a 1/4 inch shallower or deeper than the factory setting.
Another component that has been upgraded are the bearings in the packer wheel.
So in the redesign of the back end here, we completely redesigned the hub and the depth adjustment that we've just went through, but as well we've housed the bearings in a very friendly manner for the bearings, and there's an internal spacer, machine spacer, to keep the bearings at their proper location. They're nice and far apart to take the lateral loads when you're going around sloughs and power poles. As well, we've introduced a twine guard, and over the years The bearings have been a wear item, and I guess over a long period of years they always will be, but the bearings will always fail quickly if you don't provide some method of keeping twine and residue away from the seals of the bearing. And the way that we've achieved this then is by placing the bearings a long ways away from the surface edge of the tire, so any wrapped material will take place on the hub and can't get over to where the bearing seal is. We put very good high quality bearings in here and high quality seals, but it doesn't matter how high a quality your seals are if you get twine and flax straw wrapping around the bearing. So that's made for a very long life bearing.
Over the years, Norbert has learned that an air-filled Packer tire is the only way to go. Air-filled tires give you the versatility you need. No one piece of land is exactly the same from year to year.
So the reason the air-filled tire is more successful in muddy or higher clay conditions, the reason it releases the mud is because you run a lower pressure, and as it's rotating, the tire flexes as it goes by the ground, and as that flexing takes place, the layer of mud can't really build up very thick. It has to keep peeling off because of that flexing feature. In very high clay conditions and wet conditions, the tire pressure can be run down as low as 7 psi, and in typical conditions it's still run fairly low, like 14 psi. We run the air in the tire fairly low, and to make sure that that you don't have hassles with flat tires, we put a reseal material. It's a liquid material that gets injected inside, about 3/4 of a pound per tire, and if a puncture occurs, it reseals the tire automatically, or if a bead leak occurs, it'll reseal.
The redesign of the unit has led to some significant improvements in how the components are actually made.
All of these components are laser cut. We've went to a laser cut technology so that you can provide the strength where you need it and the shape where you need it to provide whatever features you want. Part of the features then was including this slot to provide for the limiting on the fertilizer knife movement to eliminate the chain problems that we had. The slot is clearly visible there. All these laser cut parts then, most of them are just bolted together. Laser cut technology is so precise that you can just bolt these parts together, leave very tight tolerances on all the holes, and be assured that if you build 50 or 2,000 of these units, that each one is going to be identical within a very small fraction of an inch from the other. So when we factory set them for the 3/4 inch depth, you don't have to look behind to see if one is different from another. On this side, it's easier to see as well. We provide a strap here to guide the hoses. So when it's plumbed into the machine, the hoses all run through this guide to prevent any yanking out when it's tripping and hitting rocks. The hoses are held gently but firmly in place so they don't pull out.
The Seedmaster frame is entirely bolted together. The frame is now heavier and stronger than the older design, built to last to meet the higher demands of today's growing farms.
First of all, we use again all the same laser cutting technology for cutting all the parts, and when we go to weld parts like this together, we use the holes and we put dowels in, so the jig that holds the parts in place for welding are very repetitive from one to the other. So when we go to bolt these together, we don't need to struggle with the holes. The holes all line up very nicely. Some of the advantages to working in components like this instead of complete frames welded together is, first of all, we can weld in position. The parts are small enough to easily rotate after the parts are tacked together, so you're always in position welding and getting a better weld strength. At the end, when these pieces are welded, they also are a size and structure that fits easily through that same wheel abrader blasting machine to blast the metal to bare metal. And again, all these parts fit through the powder coat line, so they get powder coated to give you that high quality, long lasting finish. And a final advantage in a bolt together system is if there's a feature that a farmer decides to change after he's used the machine for a few years. For example, if he decides to put anhydrous tanks on and he's just got a small axle on the back, it's a matter of simply removing 16 bolts, changing the back axle, putting big tires on. So instead of cutting and welding for changes like that, it's simply a matter of unbolting and bolting on the part that he wants to change to.
The new bolt-together frame also makes the seeder very easy and safe to ship long distances in an unassembled state, either on a flat-deck trailer to the Peace River country or in a shipping container to Australia or Kazakhstan. Off-site assembly is quite common even within Canada. A 60-foot machine can be assembled on the farm in a few days. The solid design with low maintenance requirements makes it easy to deal with service concerns over long distances. StrawTrack Manufacturing keeps in close contact with all owners, and our experienced and problem-solving service staff is quick to respond to any service requirements. The experienced team in engineering, sales, welding and assembly, service and design ensures you will enjoy your seeding activity and turn your farm into the most profitable in your area. The StrawTrack Manufacturing staff has decades upon decades of combined experience with the drill that is now known as Seedmaster. The expertise that we have behind Seedmaster has been gathering for years. Only the name is new. The seeding implement is what makes the farmer the money. If you're in the market for a new drill, chances are the Seedmaster is what you need. You can't afford to be without it. If you have any questions or want to learn more about this innovative piece of farm technology, contact StrawTrack Manufacturing today.